In 2023, a geneticist in Sao Paulo extracted DNA from a 1,500-year-old tooth. What she found shouldn't have been there. Genetic markers from populations that existed thousands of miles away. Markers that tell a story of mass death, and a single repeating pattern in the blood of survivors. For centuries, we called the Amazon a pristine wilderness, untouched, empty, a green void. We were catastrophically wrong. Hidden beneath that canopy was a civilization of millions, cities connected by highways, farms that fed empires. And then, within a single generation, they vanished. Historians blamed disease, others blamed drought. But the DNA tells a different story, one we weren't supposed to find. Let's start with the lie we all believed. When Spanish conquistador Francisco de Orellana sailed the Amazon in 1542, he described something impossible. Cities that stretched for miles along the riverbank, thousands of people, organized armies, roads disappearing into the forest. When later explorers returned decades afterward, nothing, just jungle, silence, as if Orellana had imagined everything. For 400 years, historians dismissed his accounts as fantasy. The Amazon, they said, couldn't support large populations. The soil was too poor, the climate too harsh. The pristine myth became scientific gospel. Then came LiDAR. Light detection and ranging technology can see through forest canopy. And when researchers flew LiDAR sensors over Bolivia's Llanos de Mojos region in 2022, they found something that rewrote history. Geometric earthworks, causeways, canals connecting settlements across 1,700 square kilometers. This wasn't a scattered tribal population. This was urban planning. Archaeologist Heiko Prumers called it unbelievable. His team identified over 20 previously unknown settlements, some with pyramids, some with moats. Orellana wasn't lying. So what happened to everyone who lived here? The Amazon once held between 8 and 20 million people. Let that number sink in. That's more than lived in medieval England, more than the entire Aztec Empire at its peak. These weren't just villages. The Cujicugu site in Brazil reveals planned towns arranged in circular patterns, plazas, wide roads connecting communities over dozens of kilometers. They engineered the soil itself. Terra preta, Amazonian dark earth, is an artificial soil so fertile that farmers still seek it out today. Ancient populations created it deliberately, mixing charcoal, bone, and organic matter to transform nutrient-poor jungle floor into agricultural gold. This required generations of knowledge, organization, population density. And then, between 1500 and 1600, collapse. The population dropped by 90 to 95%. The jungle swallowed everything. Within a century, the cities were gone. The roads became rivers, the farms became forest. Historians long assumed European disease explained everything. Smallpox, measles, influenza. The virgin soil epidemic theory seemed obvious. Indigenous populations had no immunity. Contact meant death. But here's what that theory couldn't explain. In some regions, collapse happened before Europeans ever arrived. In others, populations survived contact entirely. The pattern made no sense until geneticists looked closer.
In 2023, a landmark study analyzed ancient DNA from over 70 individuals across the Amazon basin. Human remains dating from 10,000 years ago to the colonial period. The results were published in Science Journal, and they revealed something unsettling. The populations that survived European contact weren't random. They shared specific genetic signatures, markers associated with immune response, disease resistance. Survivors weren't just lucky, They were genetically distinct from those who perished. But here's where it gets stranger. The DNA showed multiple population crashes happened long before 1492. Major genetic bottlenecks occurred around 800 CE, and again around 1200 CE. Events that killed massive percentages of the population, leaving genetic fingerprints in the survivors. These weren't caused by Europeans. Climate records from lake sediments and tree rings confirm severe droughts hit the Amazon during these exact periods, multi-decade droughts that would have collapsed agricultural systems dependent on precise water management. The great cities didn't fall once, they fell repeatedly. Each time the population rebuilt, but with reduced genetic diversity, smaller founding groups, fewer bloodlines. By the time Europeans arrived, many Amazonian populations had already weathered catastrophic collapse. Some had genetic advantages, others hadn't. Disease didn't kill equally. It killed those already weakened by 600 years of recurring disaster. Here's what I want you to think about. We call the Amazon rainforest one of the last wild places on Earth. But if millions of people shaped this landscape for thousands of years, farming it, building in it, engineering its very soil, is it actually wild at all? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you think. The DNA revealed one more secret. Amazonian populations weren't isolated. Genetic evidence shows multiple migration waves into the Amazon over millennia, connections to Andean populations, to coastal Brazilian groups, and most surprisingly, ancient links to Australasian populations that we still can't fully explain. This wasn't a closed world. The Amazon was a crossroads. And that diversity may have been the ultimate survival mechanism. Populations with more genetic variation weathered disasters better. More variety in immune genes meant some individuals always survived epidemic waves. Communities that maintained connections, trade, marriage networks, cultural exchange, retained genetic diversity. Those that became isolated didn't. The DNA map of survivors correlates almost perfectly with ancient trade routes, rivers that connected communities, mountain passes that allowed movement. The Amazon's great cities fell, but the networks between them determined who lived. This isn't just ancient history. Understanding how populations survived past pandemics has direct implications for modern medicine. The genetic signatures identified in these ancient remains are being studied for their relevance to contemporary disease resistance. The dead are teaching us how to survive. Walk through the Amazon today and you'll pass through a haunted landscape. Archaeologists estimate that 3 to 8% of the Amazon basin contains archaeological sites we haven't found yet, ancient cities sleeping beneath the trees. The forest we call pristine is actually regrowth, nature reclaiming humanity's largest abandoned garden. Those enormous trees, many are species that humans planted: Brazil nut, cacao, acai. The jungle itself is their monument. And here's the most extraordinary part. Some descendants survived. They're still here. Communities carrying the genetic heritage of those ancient civilizations continue to live in the Amazon. Their oral histories, often dismissed by Western scholars, align precisely with what archaeology and genetics are now confirming. They told us their ancestors built cities. We just didn't listen. The disappearance of Amazonian civilization wasn't a single event. It was a cascade. Centuries of drought, cycles of collapse and recovery, genetic bottlenecks that weakened populations, and finally, European contact delivering the killing blow to communities already pushed to their limits. The DNA didn't just explain their disappearance, it revealed their resilience, how they survived disaster after disaster for 10,000 years until they couldn't anymore. And here's what keeps researchers awake at night. LiDAR surveys have covered less than 5% of the Amazon basin. Every month, new sites emerge from the data. More cities, more roads, More evidence that we've fundamentally misunderstood one of history's greatest civilizations. One final question. If we were this wrong about the Amazon, about millions of people and their cities, what else have we missed? What other empty places on Earth are hiding civilizations we haven't found yet? Tell me your theories below. The most interesting ones might shape a future episode. And if this changed how you see history, share it with someone who still believes the old story. The jungle kept these secrets for 500 years. Maybe it's time everyone knew the truth.